Phil Zekas from YoChicago.com. I'm in the West Loop this morning with two seasoned veterans of the condo development and marketing industry. Santo Rizzo on my left and Chip Cornelius on my right. And guys, I've been tracking new construction in high-rise rental apartments in downtown Chicago. We have 5,200 units coming to market this year and next, for sure. We have as many as 18,000 additional units on the drawing boards. A lot of people are concerned about how this is going to play out.
Some of these properties are probably going to have some difficulties in leasing up fully. Our development, sales, and marketing division will be looking at some of these opportunities as they may come to us as a potential condominium conversion property, but it's going to be kind of a wait and see thing. But with that number of units that are coming on the market, our ear is to the ground, and our interest is to find out where those problems might be. But definitely, Joe, I think there's an oversupply situation coming very, very rapidly.
And it's going to play out by some of the buildings failing as rentals?
I think what you're going to see initially is probably rental programs where they give a month away for rent, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. I think there'll be maybe furnishings packages that are included, maybe even customization, in some instances. I think we're going to begin to see those signs more and more.
And the buildings are going to then be economically viable as condos?
We believe that we're coming into that market now very strongly. I think since the first of the year, there are a number of neighborhoods that lack inventory right now. I joke with Santo that if we had 200, two-bedroom condominiums in the West Loop right now at a decent price, we could sell those over a weekend. I mean, this market has really opened up.
When I look at the sale price of a number of the buildings recently, they seem to be selling as rentals above their condo value.
And it's very important to understand why these dynamics are taking place right now. Why is it that in a down market that you have this much construction going on in rental units? You normally wouldn't see this. And the reason for that is because most of the properties that were available, that were taken over by banks within the last 2 to 3 years, they're pretty much gone. A lot of investors now are looking for homes. They're buying tracts of home, 200, 300 homes in blocks. But what they're doing, there's about $2.3 trillion in private equity fund that has to be put out. And they were holding on to these for a while because the interest rates were so low and they couldn't keep them in the banks at 0.8, 0.9%. So they've decided to put these dollars out in real estate. So if they can get a 2 cap or a 3 cap, they're happy because they're paying cash for this. So there's a tremendous amount of construction going on, not just in the Chicagoland area, but it's taking place throughout the country, in Florida, in California, in some other places, and certainly in Chicago we're seeing a lot of that. But within the next 3 years or so, most of these properties are going to be turned into condominiums. They will be available for developers to come in and purchase them.
The demographic of these new rental buildings is 25 to 35-year-olds predominantly. They're saying, we don't want to own, we want to rent.
I think the rent versus buy scenario right now for those considering a purchase is turning.
Huge.
I think it's turning in the favor of the buyers, and that's going to pull more and more people out of the rental markets. But there's strictly just an oversupply.
But that's very important.
I would agree with you that right now the rent-buy calculation favors buying.
Correct.
But you're saying 3 or 4 months free rent. How does that affect the calculation?
Well, it may, but I'm just saying at some point some of these rental properties are going to have financial complications associated with giving away that much rent, and at some point some of these properties are going to be very carefully scrutinized to see if a conversion is a good exit scenario for either the developer and the bank or both. And our company and our expertise is such that we can take those problems and solve them for lenders and for developers. And with Santo's experience and my experience in this area, I think we're going to be
Well, I think you
in
mentioned
good
something
position to take
very
care of that.
important there. Number one, there are only two ways to live, as I said. You're either going to rent or you're going to buy. And traditionally, the people who've always purchased have purchased because they wanted a piece of the action, the appreciation, the tax benefit, the right to live there as long as you want to live, the mortgage paid down. There are many benefits that come with ownership. There's only one benefit that comes with rentalship, and that is I can live there for a year. But why does a person rent and why does a person own? When you own, you get a huge package of benefits. Those benefits have a cost. When you rent, you only get the apartment for a year. That has a cost. It's always cheaper to rent than it is to own. The moment you buy a home, it's more expensive. Now, however, more than ever before, for the first time in history, those have reversed. Interest rates are lower than they've ever been historically in the whole history of the United States. You've never had history below 4% the last 150 years. Never. You've had interest below, you've had 4%. You have property values that have dropped almost a 12 to 14 year period. And for the first time with most property, it costs less to own than it does to rent. It costs less to own. So if it costs less to own and get all those benefits as opposed to one little benefit, most people are going to vote for purchasing the property.
When we look at the selling price of some of the buildings, and I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to mention NV, I'm not going to mention Mark Huron, I'm not going to mention other buildings that have 1225 Old Town, buildings that have turned for $500,000 a unit and more recently, and they probably wouldn't sell for 80% of that as condos.
I think it depends on the sub-market that you're looking at, and it also depends on the recent comparables and the lack of inventory in certain product types. Like if it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, I mentioned about the shortfall of that product in the West Loop. And I am definitely seeing this market open up for condominiums at a higher price than where we were before. So we're at a changing, very rapidly changing market dynamic that I believe, and I think with the oversupply of rentals that are coming into the market, I think we're going to begin to see some of those opportunities open up as condos. And it may be gradual for the next 9 months to a year, but I think the bottom line is we're poised to make some of those problems go away by converting these condominiums, these rental buildings to condominiums. And Santo has the expertise and the wherewithal and the knowledge to make that happen.